Beside them, more mercenaries joined them, and not just from her company. Men who Hayard had commanded, others who she recognized only marginally, turned to fight their would-be oppressors. If Edward thought this was going to be a peaceful union, he had another think coming. "I saw what happened with Edward," Miral said, as she made it to ground. Above them, an almighty battle was rising. "If you are going to leave, now is the right time to go," he added, as he gestured to Grey Shadow, who was patiently kicking his hooves as he dozed in the mid-morning sun. "Is he the father who?" Miral nodded to Finan, who they could see beside Utad, as the new Lord of Mercia continued to thank his people. "I have seen the way you look at him." Osrith said nothing, as she noticed Edith's eyes on Finan again, as people came to shake his hand too. "He is lost to me," Osrith said, turning away. "And I thank you for all you have done. A person cannot buy the friendship I have here, Miral, with you, with Aldhelm, too." She wiped a tear from her face with the back of her hand. "And my men, all good, brave, honorable men. I have had a life here I could never have expected. If I do nothing else with my life, I know I gave myself to something I believed in." "You do nothing else?" "That I will never believe. And the men are good and brave and honorable because of you, Osrith. You are a good leader, a great one. The men respect you. I would be nothing short of an honor to fight beside you in the future should you stand in the green and gold again." Osrith leaned to him, and clapped him on the back, and Miral returned the gesture, before kissing her forehead. "Now is the time, if you are going," he urged. "My guard have just been brought to the front." But, he saw her hesitation. "Take a moment, what do you will?" "Go," Osrith declared, with a finality that she did not feel in her heart. "Go, with her daughter," and she felt her stomach, lightly, before clapping her men on the back as they assembled beside Miral, fighting still going on overhead as more and more mercenary guards came to join into who knew what. It was a fight against West Saxons that was all the excuse they needed. Elfkin made eye contact with Osrith, and she reached for his hand as she passed, squeezing it, remembering taking him as a small child, into her lap and comforting him on night duties, when everyone else was asleep. What a grown man he was now, no fears about him, reliable, stolid, good-humored. She wiped a tear from the corner of her eye and glanced once more to the courtyard, where she saw Finan place a soft hand to Edith's shoulder. This was right, it could only be right. He had found someone less hard work than Osrith, and so she must harden her heart. Down in courtyard, Edith nodded her head and told Finan, "It is her, I swear," and added, "Marlena's to Reubay me do Gerdenanuate." She said, "It means I am pleased for the life you have chosen." "Like hell it does." Finan shouted, and turned from Utad's warriors. "Osrith!" Finan called, but it was too late. A figure, on horseback, was heading out of the gates of Aylesbury. "Why is she always riding away?" he shouted. Beside him, Miral shifted his feet. "She said she was going home," he explained, arms folded, "and the father of her child was a good-for-nothing bastard." Finan made to swing at him, then stopped, noticing something around Miral's neck. "Where did you get that, you thieving bastard?" "Finan." "It was Cithric." "You are needed." But Finan ignored him, staring at the double-headed king coin, with a hole big enough for a chain he once had. It was now on a leather cord around Miral's neck. "You are the no-good bastard." Miral glowered, leaving her knocked up. "I have now lost a good captain." He glanced down at the coin. "I did not steal it, she left it with her uniform." Finan stared at it, then one glance at Miral, before stalking away. 88,888,888. Utad, clad in green and standing at the front of Aylesbury's great hall. He was ready to speak at the Witan. Lord of Mercia, that was what he had been called for the last day. It was better than Daneslayer, or ungodly, or Usseling. It would be a short one, his first, and his last. Behind the root screen, sat his former lover, the future ruler of this land. Her hound, Aldhelm, stood to one side. "She carries my child." Utad turned to Finan, his voice plaintive. Clearly all the excitement of the last 2 days was getting to him. "So she says," he replied, with a grin. As the lords Ludica and Burgard were arranging their factions, to the left sat Edward, with Ethelhelm to his right. "Your child?" "She probably said so to annoy me. Women say that all the time," Uhtred added, in a tone that made him sound as if he was being reasonable. "It could be his." Uhtred nodded to Edward. "Found locked in with 2 guards, was the rumor. Was he that way inclined?" Uhtred wondered, or that bastard Constantine could be the father. He saw Finan's face, but continued twisting the emotional life. "It is a story as old as time." "Yours?" Uhtred scoffed. "What?" Before them, Ludica was holding the Mercen crown, best-studded with emeralds, a sleek coronet. Uhtred stood just before him, then made to kneel. But Finan pulled him up by the shoulder. "What?" Uhtred turned a slow, lazy smile on his friend. Finan had already been angry about the fact that he had kept Osrith's identity from him all that time. Well, he had. But he had eyes, didn't he? "She's a spy, like I told you," Uhtred replied, dismissively, shaking Finan away. "You reeled are an arsling, you know that." Finan hissed, as he stood beside Uhtred, who was about to be crowned. His so-called friend looked back up to him, and grinned. "Yes, I know,